These were some of the documents used by the recruitment team of one of my former companies. Let's take a look at some of the reasons why people were not hired. Interview status, fail. Reason, non-Caucasian. Failed. Reason, 52 years old. Failed. Reason, skin color. Failed. Reason, skin color. For reevaluation, please watch her demo. Failed. Skin color and no bachelor's degree. Failed. Skin color. Failed. Looks Egyptian. Failed. Looks Serbian. Failed. Looks Pakistani. Failed. Looks Japanese. Failed. Hispanic. Failed. Dominican. Failed. Elderly. Failed. 62 years old. Failed. 56 years old. Failed. Doesn't look American. Failed. Physical appearance. And lastly, failed. Physical appearance doesn't look American. So I would like to ask, what does an American look like? Casper? Hitler?
Oh, hello there. Welcome back to my video channel series YouTube thing. To be honest, I have not waited for you guys this time to start drinking because today's subject is pretty f***ing heavy. I'm going to be talking about a number of companies in this video. Companies that I personally worked for, companies that didn't hire black people, companies that operated in the United States. It doesn't really matter what company it was, because what I'm going to tell you today is representative of pretty much all Chinese companies. From what I've noticed, the more Chinese the company, the more racist they are.
Okay, this is my story. I worked in HR at the headquarters of a Chinese ed tech company in Beijing. The person who referred me to this company currently works at VIP Kid's headquarters in Beijing, and I bring up VIP Kid as an example because these two companies are very similar in nature. Part of my role at this company was to watch over the interviews being conducted by our training team in the US and decide which candidates were to be hired. So, on my first day at this company, I had an orientation with my supervisor, Angie, who is the head of the training department. She told me,
"We hire blacks. Obama black is okay. But no darker, or they'll scare the kids. The kids will think they're some kind of monster."
One day, Angie goes into a meeting with our, senior manager, William. Rather than telling me that I need to discriminate against people based on race and age, William instead had the Chinese recruitment team review any candidates that I approved of. And that's where this Google document comes into play. So this was their document. They shared this document with the entire management team in Beijing, and everyone not only knew, but expected this discrimination to take place.
This is how they do it, just to let you know. They don't bring up a face-to-face interview and then immediately say no and tell you that you're not gonna get the job if you're black. What they'll do is they'll waste your time until you quit trying. And then they won't do that for the white people.
So yeah, the evidence is already quite damning, but it doesn't end there. Because a couple months later, I had to organize a photo shoot for this company, and there were a lot of allegations, accurate allegations by our US staff that the company was implementing discriminatory policies. So we suggested to include some people of color in this photo shoot, and my senior manager agreed, but only agreed to one black person. So we basically hired one token black lady to participate in this photo shoot, and if you think that's offensive, just wait. So they send us all of these pictures from this really professional photo shoot, and we put them on our social media in the US and on our American website and stuff. And then the next week, we find out that the Chinese production team edited out the black girl before posting it on Chinese social media or putting it on the Chinese website because the company literally couldn't handle the negative publicity of having one black person represent them.
The problem is not actually my boss or the company that I worked for, because the problem is representative of all Chinese companies. And the problem in these Chinese companies is representative of all of Chinese society, because all of Chinese society is racist as f***. So when I stopped working at this tech startup, because they basically went bankrupt, I went to the company that was run by the Chinese government, and they absolutely would not hire black people. After working there for 5 months, I took a holiday, a 2-week holiday, went to Bali, and I showed up at work darker. And Chang, she says to me, 你黑了，你这样会没工作, which means you're darker. If you come in like this, you're not going to have a job. This woman Chang, what's her job? She's human resources. Her job is Chinese HR.
Let me remind you, this is not just happening in China, this is happening in the US by Chinese companies. Just as one example, VIP Kid employs 90,000 teachers in North America.
The reason I think that this is super important, and I think it's something that I've never seen anybody address, and this is what I want you to take away from this. There are companies, I work for one of them, there are many. They employ a lot of Americans as independent contractors, essentially operating in the US, but they don't follow our laws. They don't follow our anti-discrimination laws. And unless these companies start operating under the same regulations that American companies are required to operate under when it comes to anti-discrimination practices, they need to be banned.
Just like TikTok and WeChat, these Chinese ed tech companies are collecting vast amounts of user data. And just like TikTok and WeChat, these companies, like all Chinese companies, are beholden to the Chinese Communist Party. By cutting off access to American teachers, the 300 million people in China who are currently learning English are going to have to start paying tuition to US ed tech firms in order to learn American English. Also, American teachers will no longer have to teach brainwashed Chinese propaganda. I don't know if you're aware of this, but in 2019, it became illegal for any teacher in China to teach using foreign published textbooks. Republicans and Democrats should both support this cause because, firstly, it's the right thing to do, but also it's a win-win for literally everyone involved, except for the CCP. So, come on, let's do it.
There are a lot of Chinese people who especially the 50 Cent army that are paid by the Chinese government to comment negative things on videos, and I'm sure they're gonna come after me and say well, you're just as racist in America, your police are killing people. Yeah, they are. I acknowledge that. I'm not defending America. Saying that America is racist is not a defense to Chinese racism, especially when Chinese companies are implementing their racism in the United States, okay? I just want to say that.
P.S. Even if you are some kind of hillbilly racist who hates black people, you should also support this cause because these Chinese companies are literally paying white people the absolute minimum possible to keep them from quitting. I would know as somebody who's worked in their HR departments.